The last food stall on Earthwind was cold that night. It carried dust and ash through the empty streets. Once this place was full of people, cars, laughter, children running. But now, only silence and broken buildings stood under the pale moon. Out on the corner of a cracked street, a man stood behind a small food stall. His name was Sam. He wore a dirty apron and flipped a burger on a hot iron plate. The smell of cooking meat rose into the air, mixing with the smell of dust. Sam didn't know why he still cooked. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was hope. Maybe he just didn't know what else to do. The world had ended months ago. Or maybe years. He stopped counting. He had not seen another human for weeks. Some had died. Some had hidden underground. But Sam stayed. He thought if anyone came back, they would want to eat. So he kept his stall open. A broken radio on the counter played. Soft static. Sometimes faint voices came through, speaking strange words he didn't understand. Sometimes it was just silence. Sam flipped the burger again. He pressed it down, and fat sizzled on the hot plate. He put a bun on the side to warm it. He thought about the old days. People would line up here for his food. Office workers, teenagers, even policemen. Now there was nobody. But tonight felt different. As he cooked, he heard a sound, soft, like footsteps. But not like human footsteps. Sam froze. His hands stopped moving. He looked around. Nothing. The street was empty, just shadows and dust. He shook his head and went back to the burger, but the sound came again. Closer this time. Soft but heavy, like claws on stone. Sam's heart beat faster. He reached under the counter and pulled out a rusty knife. His eyes scanned the darkness. "Who's there?" he called. His voice was rough from smoke and dust. No answer. Only the wind. He took a deep breath and set the knife down. Maybe it was a rat. Maybe a dog. He picked up the bun, put the burger inside, and wrapped it in paper. Then he heard it again, closer. This time he turned fast, and his eyes caught something. 3 figures stood at the edge of the light from his stall. Tall, thin, glowing faintly, like moonlight on water. Sam stepped back. They were not human. Their skin shimmered, blue and silver. Their eyes were large, dark, and shining. Their faces were beautiful, but strange, too perfect, too sharp. And their hair floated slightly, as if they stood underwater. They stared at him. Silent, still. Sam swallowed hard. Hello? One of them, the tallest, tilted her head. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Then all 3 stepped closer. Sam's hand moved slowly toward the knife again. They stopped at the counter. Their eyes lowered to the burger in his hand. Sam looked down too, then back at them. "You? Hungry?" The tallest one nodded once. Sam didn't know what to do. His hands shook a little. He placed the burger on the counter and stepped back. The alien reached out, fast, too fast, and grabbed it. The paper tore as she bit into it. The other 2 moved closer and reached for it too. Sam quickly grabbed 2 more buns and threw patties on the plate. Smoke rose, and the smell of meat filled the air again. He worked fast, glancing up now and then. The 3 aliens devoured the first burger in seconds. Their long fingers licked clean, their dark eyes watching him cook more. They didn't speak. They didn't smile. They just stared and waited. Sam slid another burger toward them. They snatched it up. The 3rd followed. When they finished, they stood still, breathing slowly, watching him. Then the tallest one reached into a pouch at her side and pulled out something. She placed it gently on the counter. Sam frowned. It was a small stone, smooth, round, and glowing faintly blue. It seemed to hum like a heartbeat. "What is this?" he asked softly. She didn't answer, just tilted her head again, then turned and walked away. The other two followed, silent as shadows. Sam stood there, staring at the stone. It was warm under his fingers. It made the air around it feel alive. He looked up, but the three figures had vanished into the dark. Only the wind remained, whispering through the empty streets. Sam put the stone in his pocket and sat down. He stared at the hot plate, still smoking from the burgers. For the first time in months, he felt something strange. Not fear, not loneliness, but a question. Why had they come? And would they come back? He didn't know, but he had a feeling tomorrow. Night would not be quiet. Hungry guests next night. The air felt heavier. Sam stood behind his stall again. But something was different. The sky was darker, painted with strange green and purple lights that moved slowly across the stars. Couldn't stop thinking about last night. The three glowing women, the way they devoured his burgers, the strange stone they left behind. All day, he turned that stone over in his hands, feeling it pulse softly, like a sleeping heart. Sometimes it glowed brighter when he held it longer. And sometimes, when he closed his eyes with it in his palm, he thought he heard whispers. But now it sat quietly in his pocket, warm against his leg. Sam lit the hot plate and put fresh patties down. The smell of meat and oil filled the cool air. His hands worked automatically, but his eyes kept looking at the street. He didn't know if he wanted them to come back, but they did. This time. He heard them long before he saw them. The sound was louder now. More footsteps, more claws on concrete. Sam straightened and set the spatula down. Shadows moved at the far end of the street. He counted 3, no, 5, then 7. Tall, shimmering figures stepped into the light, and they were not the same ones. Their skin was different shades. Some silver, some faintly gold, others with patterns of blue streaks running across their arms and cheeks. But all were beautiful, graceful, and hungry. They walked slowly, as if unsure of him, but their eyes never left the sizzling burgers. The tallest of them came forward. She was not the same leader from before. Her glow was redder, and her eyes had a sharpness that unsettled Sam. She placed her long fingers on the counter and tilted her head at him. Sam swallowed. "You're back," he said softly. She said nothing. Instead, she pointed at the patties. Sam nodded and worked faster. More meat hit the hot plate. More buns lined up to warm. As he cooked, he noticed something strange. The air shimmered around him, like heat waves on asphalt. And the ground, it was faint, but he felt it. The ground trembled every few seconds, as though something massive was moving far below or far away. The first burger was ready. He wrapped it and placed it on the counter. The red glow leader snatched it up and tore into it, barely bothering with the paper. The others waited silently behind her. He made more. They all ate, fast and quiet. Their eyes darted to the sky between. Bites. Sam tried to speak. "What are you?" he asked carefully. "Where are you from?" No answer. But when he handed over another burger, one of the others, smaller than the rest, with golden hair that floated like fire, leaned in closer and whispered a single word. Double quotes, hiding. Double quotes. Sam froze. Hiding? Hiding from who? But the small one stepped back, clutching her food, eyes wide, like she'd said too much. The red leader turned sharply and gave her a look that needed no translation. The girl lowered her head and said nothing else. Sam single quotes as stomach tightened. He kept cooking, but his mind was spinning now. Hiding? Hiding from what? Or from who? Just then, the tallest one reached into a pouch at her side and placed something on the counter. It wasn't a stone. This time, it was a piece of metal, shaped like a coin, but with tiny moving lights on. It like stars trapped inside. Sam touched it and felt a jolt of energy shoot up his arm. He pulled back. But the red leader pushed it closer, her eyes locking with his. More, she said suddenly. Sam blinked. She spoke. The voice was strange, layered, like many voices speaking at once, but he understood her. More. Tomorrow. More food. More. Meat. More everything. Or, she paused, then leaned closer until her face was inches from his. Danger. She straightened and turned to leave. The others followed her, their glowing forms melting back into the darkness. But the last one, the small golden-haired one, hesitated. She looked back at Sam and whispered again, almost too soft to hear, "They're coming." Then she ran after the others. Sam stood there, heart pounding. His hands gripped the counter so hard his knuckles turned white. The wind picked up, cold and sharp. Above him, the green and purple lights in the sky pulsed brighter, and he noticed small black shapes moving against them, like ships, growing closer. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he scavenged every can of meat and bread he could find. He broke into an abandoned store and carried bags of supplies back to his stall. He didn't know why he obeyed, but he did. And all the while, the strange coin and the glowing stone in his pocket pulsed and hummed. As the sun fell, the city grew, darker than before, and when he lit the hot plate again, the ground shook harder. Sam looked up. The sky was full of ships now, black, sharp shapes with red lights crawling across their surface, and behind his stall, down the ruined street, dozens of glowing figures were gathering, more than before. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Some of them limped. Some of them looked burned, wounded. Some of them carried strange, broken weapons. And all of them looked at him. Waiting. Silent. Hungry. And afraid. Sam's hands moved faster, throwing meat on the hot plate. But his eyes stayed on the sky, where the ships hung like sharks circling above. Didn't know what was coming next. But he knew it wouldn't be quiet. And this time, it wouldn't just be about burgers. It would be about survival. The Delft sky above was no longer quiet. All through the night, ships hovered like black knives, their red lights cutting through the darkness. They made no sound, but their presence was heavy, like a giant hand pressing down on the world. Sam stood behind his stall, flipping burgers as fast as his hands allowed. The smell of cooked meat filled the cold air, and the line of glowing aliens in front of him stretched farther than he could see. There were so many of them now. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Some of them leaned on each other, tired, their shimmering skin bruised and cracked. Some clutched strange little children close to their sides. Their glowing eyes stared at him with hunger and something else, desperation. He worked in silence, but his mind was loud. What was happening? Why here? Why? His food stall? And most of all, who were those ships above, waiting in the dark? The tallest alien, the one with the red glow who spoke to him last time, finally stepped forward again. Sam froze when he saw her. Her glow was dimmer now, and there was a cut running across her cheek. But her eyes burned with the same sharpness. She placed another glowing stone on the counter. This one was larger, and when it touched the wood, the air around it seemed to warp, like heat rising from fire. More, she said in her strange, layered voice. Sam glanced at the long line behind her and then back to the sky. "I'm cooking as fast as I can," he said. His voice dried. The alien tilted her head. "Not just food," she said. Sam frowned. "What do you mean?" She leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing. "They are coming," she whispered. "And when they come, they will burn everything." Sam looked up at the ships above. "Those?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Worse." He swallowed hard. Then she pulled something from her belt and placed it on the counter. Sam stared at it. Dot, it was a small black box, with strange symbols glowing faintly on its surface. What is this? He asked. Your deal? She said simply. Sam picked up the box carefully. It was heavier than it looked, warm to the touch. What does it do? It gives you a choice, she said. You can give them to us to protect us, to stand between you and what hunts us. And in return, we give you everything. Sam blinked. Everything? She nodded slowly. Power, safety, light, the stars themselves. All yours. Sam stared at the box. The symbols shifted and pulsed under his fingers. And if I say no? The alien's voice dropped low, almost a growl, and we all burned together. The line behind her shuffled uneasily. The smaller, golden-haired one from before, her eyes wide. Please, she whispered. You don't know what's coming. You don't want to know. Sam looked back at the red leader. Why me? He asked. Her head tilted. Slightly, almost as if she was smiling, but her eyes were dead serious. Because you stayed, she said, when your kind ran. When the ground split and the sky fell. When the dead walked and the seas boiled. You stayed. You cooked. Sam's hands tightened on the box. He thought of the nights he stood here alone. The streets empty, the silence heavier than stone. I didn't know what else to do. He muttered. The leader's lips curled slightly. Exactly. The box grew. Warmer. The symbols flared brighter. If I take this deal, Sam asked quietly, what happens next? The leader's eyes flicked up to the ships. You become the beacon, she said, and they will come for you first. Sam swallowed hard. The ground suddenly shook beneath them. Louder than before, stronger. The bottles on his counter rattled and fell. The burgers slid off the plate. The line of aliens behind her stiffened, their eyes snapping to the sky god above. The black ships began to move, but not toward the ground. Instead, they split apart, pulling back as if afraid. From beyond the horizon, a roar rose, low, deep, and impossible to describe. It felt alive. It felt angry. The leader grabbed his wrist. Choose, she hissed. Now. Sam stared at the box. It felt hot now, almost burning his hand. The symbols on it spun faster, glowing white. Behind him, the air split open with a flash. And for just a moment, Sam thought he saw something huge moving in the distance, taller than the tallest building, its eyes burning like suns. The golden-haired girl clung to the counter and cried out. They found us! She screamed. Sam clenched his jaw. The red leader's grip tightened. Take the deal, she demanded. He looked at the box one last time, then at her. What if I fail? He asked. Her eyes softened, but only a little. Then we all burn, she said. The roar grew louder. The ground cracked beneath his feet. The air smelled of smoke and lightning. Sam closed his eyes and pressed his hand to the box. A flash of white light shot out from it, blinding him, and for a moment the world went silent. When he opened his eyes again, the street was empty. No line of aliens, no leader, no golden-haired girl. Only him, and the box, now embedded in his counter, glowing faintly. In the distance, the black ships still hovered, but now they were circling. And from beyond the horizon, something even darker was coming. Sam wiped his hands on his apron and picked up the spatula again. All right, he muttered. Let's see what's on the menu tonight. And somewhere deep inside the box, something laughed. Asterisk, the enemy arrived's world had changed overnight. Food stall was no longer just a quiet corner on an empty street. It had become something else, a strange glowing beacon in the middle of the ruined city. The box he had touched yesterday still sat on the counter, humming softly. Its symbols now glowed a pale gold, and thin streams of light rose from it into the sky. He didn't sleep that night. He just stood there, watching the lights stretch upward, feeling the weight of the choice he had made. All around the city, strange. Things began to happen. Shadows moved where there was no light. The air buzzed faintly, as though the sky itself was alive. Sometimes he thought he heard whispers coming from the stone and the box. And then, as dawn broke, the sky split open. It began with a sound. Not a roar, not thunder, but something worse. A deep metallic scream that seemed to scrape thee. Bones of the earth. Sam looked up. The black ships above the city were moving again. But this time, they didn't hover. They descended. One by one, they dropped like knives, slamming into the streets and rooftops with deafening crashes. Dust and sparks flew into the air. Their doors opened, and the enemy arrived. They were not like the glowing refugees. These creatures were sharp, tall, covered in black, armor that moved like liquid metal. Their faces were hidden behind masks that glowed with red lines. In their hands, they carried weapons that hissed and crackled with dark energy. The first squad landed near his stall. They moved as one, their boots crunching the broken ground, their weapons already raised. Sam stood very still. The leader of the squad stepped forward. He was taller than the others, his armor etched with crimson marks. His voice was cold, layered with static. "Human," the leader said, staring at Sam. "Step away from the beacon." Sam glanced at the box. Its light pulsed faster now. The air around it shimmered. He shook his head slowly. "Can't do that," he said. The soldiers didn't move, but the leader tilted his head, as though studying him. "You have no idea what you're protecting," the leader said. "They are parasites. They drain worlds. They will drain yours too." Sam's jaw tightened. "They were hungry. I fed them. That's all I know." The leader's mask flared red. "Fool," he spat. He raised his weapon, a long, spear-like blade of black light. But before he could take another step, the air behind Sam shimmered. A sharp flash, and suddenly the red glowing leader of the refugees appeared, standing between Sam and the soldiers. She looked different now, taller. Her glow was brighter, her hair flowing wildly like flames. Her eyes were hard as stone. She didn't look at Sam. Instead, she stared at the enemy. "Leader, leave," she commanded. The soldier laughed, a cruel, hollow sound. "We've followed you across 9 worlds," he said. "You think this one will stop us?" "You don't belong here," she hissed. "Neither do you," he shot back. And then the ground cracked. The 2 armies began to appear. On one side, hundreds of black-armored soldiers pouring out of the ships, their weapons glowing, their boots shaking the earth. On the other side, the glowing refugees stepped forward. Not just women now, but men, children, elders, all shining, all armed with strange blades of light and shimmering shields. They formed a circle around the stall. And at the center, Sam stood, spatula still in one hand, the humming box glowing on the counter. "This is madness," Sam muttered under his breath. The red leader glanced at him, her sharp features softening for just a second. "You are the beacon now," she said quietly. "They will not stop. You must hold this ground." Sam stared at her. "With what? Burgers in a frying pan?" She smiled faintly, though her eyes stayed cold. "You have more than you think," she said. Then the enemy leader raised his blade high, and the air split with a shriek. Everything moved at once. Black soldiers charged forward, their weapons firing streams of burning light that shattered stone and tore through the street. The refugees met them halfway, their shields flashing, their blades slicing through armor. The world became chaos. Sam ducked behind the counter as a bolt of black energy slammed into the wood, sending sparks flying. The box glowed brighter, almost blinding now. He felt something inside him, a heat, a strange certainty, rising. He grabbed the box with both hands. The moment he touched it, the world stopped, or at least it felt that. The noise, the screams, the battle, all faded into silence. He stood alone, the street empty, the sky blank, and before him a figure appeared, not the red leader, not the enemy, but something else. It was vast, faceless. Its body was made of stars, its eyes like two suns. Its voice spoke directly into his mind. "You hold the beacon," it said. "You are its keeper." Sam swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" "You decide," it said simply. "Who eats, who starves, who lives, who burns." Sam clenched his fists. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "You stayed," the voice replied, when the others ran. "That is enough." The figure leaned closer. "Do you choose them?" It asked. Sam saw the refugees in his mind, their eyes full of hunger and fear. He saw the soldiers too, cold and cruel, but determined. He saw himself, just a man in an apron, standing in the ruins, holding a spatula. He took a deep breath. "Choose the hungry," he said. The figure straightened. "Then feed them," it said. And the world snapped back into motion. The battle roared around him, louder than before. But the box now flared like a small sun, and his stall was surrounded by a golden shield. The red leader looked at him and nodded once. Sam flipped the spatula in his hand and shouted, "All right, let's cook." And the air behind him exploded. In light, defending the stalled world was fire and light. Sam stood behind a small stall as the battle raged around him. Black armored soldiers slammed into the glowing refugees, blades and beams crashing, tearing through the cracked streets. Box on his counter blazed now, its golden light spreading into the air, forming a dome that shielded the stall. But the dome was already cracking, faint spiderweb lines running through the light. He could feel the heat from the weapons outside, the weight of every impact shaking his ribs. The refugees fought hard, shields flashing, blades singing, strange. Energy swirling around them, but they were fewer, and many fell under the relentless black soldiers. Sam's hands tightened around his spatula. "I'm just a cook," he muttered to himself. "I'm just a damn cook." But deep inside, something else spoke. "You stayed. You chose. You feed the hungry." He felt the box calling to him, warm and alive beneath his fingertips. Outside the dome, the red glowing leader stood, her hair now a river of flame, her eyes wild as she slashed through 3 soldiers at once. She turned, shouting at him through the dome. "The beacon is breaking," she cried. "If it falls, we all burn." Sam nodded, though he had no idea what to do. He looked at the box. Its symbols spun faster and faster now, and he heard whispers in the air. Words he couldn't quite understand, but somehow he knew what they wanted. He took a breath, placed both hands on it, and closed his eyes. The whispers grew louder. "Feed them," he said under his breath. And suddenly the hot plate burst into light. A shockwave rolled out from the counter, knocking back a squad of soldiers and throwing chunks of broken street into the air. Sam opened his eyes. The stall had changed. The counter glowed like molten gold. The hot plate roared like a furnace, the smell of cooked meat filling the battlefield. And in his hand, the spatula was gone. In its place was a long glowing blade, shimmering like heat on summer pavement. He stepped out from behind the counter. The soldiers nearest him froze, their weapons dropping slightly as the light from the blade fell over them. The refugees cheered faintly, though many were too tired or wounded to stand. Sam raised the blade. "You want my stall?" he said, voice steady now. "You'll have to take it from me." The enemy leader stepped forward. His armor was scorched now, but his mask still glowed with fury. You think you can stop us, human? He hissed. Sam smirked faintly. I've stopped bigger men for stealing fries, he said. And then he moved. He didn't know how. His body just knew. The blade swung through the air, faster than thought, cutting through the first soldier like paper. He leapt over the counter, slamming the blade into the ground, and golden cracks spread through the street, knocking enemies back. Behind him, the dome flared brighter. From the stall, food appeared on plates, not normal food anymore, but glowing, steaming energy that the refugees grabbed and ate, their wounds closing, their strength returning. Every time he struck with the blade, another plate appeared on the counter. Every plate meant another refugee stood back up and fought harder. But the soldiers kept coming. More ships landed, black and sharp. More soldiers poured out. The red leader appeared at his side, her blade clashing with the enemies as she yelled, "We can't hold forever. The beacon must finish its work." Sam ducked under a spear, slashed through another soldier, and shouted back, "And what do we do?" She grabbed his arm, eyes blazing. "You must light the second flame," she said. Sam frowned, blocking another strike. "What second flame?" She didn't answer. She was already gone, cutting through more soldiers. Sam's eyes darted back to the stall. The box was brighter now, but the cracks in the dome were growing wider. Above, the sky roared, and he saw it. The thing beyond the ships, something so massive it blotted out the stars. Its body writhed like smoke and shadow. Its eyes burned like dying suns. Its mouth opened and closed silently, as though it was tasting the world before it swallowed it whole. And it was coming closer. Sam gritted his teeth and charged back to the stall. The counter shook as another blast hit the dome. Pieces of the shield shattered, golden light raining down like sparks. He slammed his hands onto the box. "What second flame?" he shouted. The box pulsed. And he heard it. The whispers became a single voice, clear and calm. Inside you. Sam froze. And then he understood. He took a deep breath, placed the blade on the counter, and closed his eyes. The whispers grew louder. The dome flared, then shattered completely, and everything went quiet. The soldiers stopped. The refugees stopped. Even the giant thing in the sky paused. Sam opened his eyes, and now his entire body glowed like the box, golden and blinding. He stepped out from the stall. The soldiers fell back instinctively. He raised both hands, and a second flame, taller than any tower, erupted from his chest, spiraling into the sky. Ground split open, and waves of light swept across the battlefield. The soldiers screamed as their weapons melted. The black ships cracked and burned. The refugees cried out in awe, falling to their knees. The red leader appeared beside him, staring at him with something between fear and respect. "You are the second flame," she whispered. Sam didn't answer. He stepped forward, the golden light swirling around him like fire. And as the massive shadow in the sky began to descend, he tightened his fists and said quietly, almost to himself, "Nobody ruins my kitchen, not even gods." And then he raised his hands, and the world exploded in light. A beacon in the dark. When the light faded, nothing looked the same. The streets were quiet again, but they were no longer empty. Sam stood in the middle of it all, the faint glow around his body finally dimming. His apron was torn, his hands burned, but he was alive. And so was the stall. The battlefield was littered with twisted black armor and strange weapons, all melted into the ground. The enemy ships had been torn open and left hanging in the sky like dead stars. But the thing in the sky, a massive shadow with burning eyes, was gone. For now. Sam exhaled slowly. The refugees were everywhere, kneeling, silent. There, glowing eyes fixed on him. The red leader approached him slowly. Her own glow was faint now, and her body shook slightly. But she held her head high. "You did it," she said. Her voice soft but steady. Sam gave her a tired look. "Did I?" She glanced at the sky, where thin streaks of darkness still hung, twisting faintly like smoke. "For now," she said. The small golden-haired girl ran up to him then, clutching a glowing stone to her chest. "You scared them," she said, eyes wide. Sam let out a dry laugh. "I scared myself," he admitted. He looked down at his hands. They still tingled with heat, though the light had faded, and when he glanced back at the stall, it had changed too. The counter no longer looked like cheap wood. It shimmered faintly, etched with strange patterns of light. The hot plate glowed like molten gold. Even the old sign above it, which once read "Sam's Burgers," now pulsed softly with the same symbols as the box. He stepped behind the counter, resting both hands on it. It felt alive now. And when he looked up, he noticed something strange. The street beyond the battlefield wasn't dark anymore. Lights glowed faintly in the distance, and as he squinted, he saw figures moving toward him. More refugees. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Tall and graceful, short and strange, with skin of blue, silver, gold, and even colors he didn't have names for. Some limped, some carried children, some were just shadows with eyes. All of them were walking toward his stall. Sam felt his stomach sink, but also something else. A quiet strength. He stepped around the counter and watched as they came closer. The red leader joined him, her arms crossed. "The beacon called them," she said. "All of them?" Sam asked, incredulous. "All who are hungry," she replied. He watched the first group arrive, a family of glowing green-skinned creatures. They stopped at the counter, their faces full of fear and hope. Sam grabbed a bun, tossed a patty on the hot plate, and started cooking. The smell of meat filled the air again, cutting through the lingering scent of ash and smoke. The family bowed faintly as he handed them the first plate. And the next came forward. Then the next. And so it began again. He cooked. They ate. The soldiers were gone. The battlefield was quiet, but the sky still watched. Sam looked up now and then, catching glimpses of darker shapes in the clouds, moving just out of sight. The golden-haired girl noticed him watching. "It's not over," she said softly. He nodded. Double quotes, I figured. She held out the glowing stone she'd been carrying. "You'll need this," she said. Sam took it without question. It pulsed faintly in his palm, and a faint whisper passed through his mind. Just one word. Soon. He clenched his fist around it. More refugees arrived. And more. Soon. The street was full of them, stretching back as far as he could see. They lined up quietly, eyes fixed on the golden stall. The air above shimmered now, faint trails of light rising from the crowd, swirling into the dark sky like smoke signals. Sam glanced at the red leader. "What happens when they all get here?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at him with something close to sadness. "When they all arrive," she said finally, "the enemy will come back too." Sam let out a long breath. "Figures," he muttered. He turned back to the counter, flipping another burger. "And I guess we'd better feed them fast." As the line grew longer, the whispers from the stone in his pocket grew louder, more insistent. Sometimes they spoke in words he didn't understand. Sometimes just one word over and over. Burn. He ignored it, for now. The hours passed. The crowd grew. And slowly the city changed. Buildings that had been broken began to shimmer faintly, their walls stitching themselves back together. The street cracked less underfoot. The air felt less heavy. Wherever the refugees stood, faint light pooled around them, but above, the black clouds thickened, and somewhere beyond the stars, something huge and quiet Watched. Sam didn't have to see it to know. He felt its gaze on him like ice. When the last of the first wave of refugees had been fed, the red leader approached. Him again. We have until dawn, she said quietly. Until what? Sam asked. Until it comes, she replied. He wiped his hands on his apron, sighing. Then what happens? Either the beacon burns it, she said softly, or it burns us all. Sam looked up at the sky. The black clouds above shifted slightly. And for a moment, he thought he saw an eye open there. Just for a second. Then it was gone. The golden-haired girl clung to his sleeve now, whispering so low he almost couldn't hear her. When dawn comes, she said, you'll have to choose again. Sam stared at the counter, at the faintly glowing box, at the crowd of refugees stretching into the dark, then at the faint trails of light, rising into the clouds like silent prayers. He gripped the stone tighter in his fist. And whispered to himself, all right, let's see what's on the menu for dawn. And far above, something vast. Smiled the final stand. The night before dawn was the darkest Sam had ever seen. The air was heavy, thick with strange whispers that came from everywhere and nowhere. The sky above boiled with black clouds, shot through with faint red lightning. The stars had vanished hours ago, hidden behind the growing shape of it. Whatever it was. Sam stood behind his counter, the faint glow of the beacon box casting golden light over his hands. His apron was torn and burned, but he still wore it. He cooked. The line of refugees stretched farther than his eyes could follow. Thousands now, tens of thousands, all shapes and sizes, glowing faintly, silent, waiting for their turn. He cooked and served, cooked and served. Their hands trembled when they took the food. Their eyes darted to the sky. Behind him, the golden-haired girl sat on the counter, clutching her stone and whispering prayers he didn't understand. The red leader stood at his side, her face set, her blade resting against her shoulder. Almost time, she murmured. Sam didn't look at her. He just flipped another patty. What happens at dawn? He asked. She didn't answer at first. Then it wakes fully, and it eats. Sam swallowed hard, though he kept his eyes on the grill. And if the beacon fails? We all burn, she said simply. The refugees shifted nervously. Their whispers rose like wind through dead trees. Sam placed another burger on a plate and slid it across the counter. The refugee bowed low before leaving. Above them, the black clouds stirred, and the faint outline of a mouth, impossibly wide, began to form. The golden-haired girl whimpered softly, hiding her face. Sam set down the spatula and straightened. He had a choice to make. Again. The beacon box on the counter pulsed faster, symbols flashing so quickly they blurred into solid light. The red leader looked at him now, her expression unreadable. You know what you must do, she said. Sam stared at the box. He did know. He just hated it. The whispers grew louder, coiling around him. Burn with us. Burn them all. Choose. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, he saw the creature clearly now. Even through the clouds. Its body stretched across the sky, its eyes opening like twin suns of ruin. Its limbs were longer than rivers, its teeth larger than mountains. Its hunger pressed against the world like a tide. It was waiting. Sam took a deep breath. And stepped out from behind the counter. Everyone listen, he shouted, his voice cutting through the murmurs. Thousands of glowing heads turned toward him. You came here because you were hungry, he said. You came here because you were hunted. He held up the spatula in one hand, the stone in the other. Well, I stayed here because I had nothing left. Because this, he pointed at the stall, was all I had. And I kept cooking because it's the only thing I know how to do. He looked up at the sky, teeth gritted. But if that thing wants my kitchen, It's gonna have to come down here and take it from me. The refugees stirred, their glow brightening. The red leader smiled faintly, the first real smile he'd seen from her. The golden-haired girl raised her stone high and shouted something in her strange language, and the refugees roared back, the sound rising like a storm. Sam slammed both hands on the counter. The beacon exploded in light, knocking him back. The ground cracked, golden fire shooting into the air. The ruined buildings around them began to glow, stitching themselves back into towers of glass and light. And then the stall itself rose into the air, lifted by golden pillars, until it stood above the crowd. Sam stood behind the counter, hands glowing now, his apron flapping in the rising wind. The whispers became a single, deafening voice in his head. Choose the flame. He clenched the stone in his fist and shouted, I choose the hungry. The beacon flared so bright it turned the night into day. And then the thing in the sky moved. It screamed, a sound that shook the air, the earth, the bones of everyone present. Its body began to descend, a wall of darkness blotting everything out. The refugees cowered. The soldiers, those who still lived, fell to their knees. But Sam didn't flinch. He placed the stone on the counter, slammed his hand over it, and felt the world bend around him. His voice boomed, louder than thunder. You don't scare me, he growled. You're just another customer, and you can wait your damn turn. A blazing column of gold shot from the beacon, piercing the clouds and striking the creature square in the chest. It howled, thrashing, but the light held it there. Sam gritted his teeth and grabbed the spatula again, now a blazing blade of light, and slammed it down on the counter. More beams shot up, weaving into a massive cage of golden fire that wrapped around the creature. The ground trembled. The air burned. The creature fought, but for the first time, it faltered. Sam glared at it. You're not eating anyone else tonight, he said. He raised the blade high, and the refugees began to chant, a strange rhythmic sound that filled the air with power. The golden-haired girl stood on the counter beside him, her tiny hands raised, her eyes blazing. The red leader moved to his other side, her blade meeting his in a cross of light. Together, they struck. The sky shattered. The creature screamed one last time before the golden cage collapsed inward, folding the darkness into itself until it was gone. Silence. The wind died. The clouds broke, and for the first time in years, the sun rose over the city. Sam stood at the counter, breathing hard, the blade fading from his hand. He looked around. Refugees were standing, quiet, staring at him with something like awe. The golden-haired girl hugged his leg, crying softly. The red leader placed a hand on his shoulder and said simply, You fed us. You saved us. The stars will remember your name. Sam just shook his head, looking up at the clear morning sky. Nah, he muttered. Just remember to tip next time. A ripple of quiet laughter ran through the crowd. He looked down at the counter. The box still sat there, faintly warm, its symbols dim now, but he knew it wasn't over. There would always be more hungry ones. More darkness. More mouths to feed. He straightened his apron, picked up the spatula, and called out over the silent crowd. All right, who's next? And far, far above, in the quiet corners of the stars, something vast and ancient smiled.